It's time for wrap up for the month of March and April. I read 8 books and I'm gonna tell you all about it. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Lorena and I am French but reading everything in English, so thank you for being here. Thank you for clicking on that video. Today we're going to talk about the 8 books I've read the past 2 months. Without further ado, let's start by the first book I've read in March, which was a French romance, Ce qui nous rend vivants by Emma Green. This is like Grey's Anatomy vibes. If you are learning French right now, this is the kind of book you can easily read because it's romance, nothing like difficult. Even if French is a difficult language, but you know what I mean. If you want to start somewhere, you can start with this. But honestly, this wasn't my favorite book. I think I rated it like 3 stars. I don't know, it wasn't for me. The romance didn't really convince me. I was afraid it was going to be like too much like Grey's Anatomy and nothing like new, but it wasn't. At first it was a little, but then it was just like I like it. So it was fine, but I wasn't really convinced or invested, or I don't know. The main male character was like a fake green flag. I don't know how to explain that, but the authors, because this is 2 authors, wanted to make him a green flag, but sometimes it wasn't to me. I don't know, but that wasn't my favorite. Then I read a thriller, also in French, but I promise most of the books are in English, but I have a few French reads that I also want to talk to you about. So yeah, this is a thriller, The Girl of Ink and Light. I think that's the translation of the title. This is about like twin sisters. One of them disappeared like 3 years ago, and now her kids are disappearing too. So the second sister is going to just try to find out what's going on. It was a very good one. I was surprised. Like, the editor sent this to me for me to read, and I didn't know the author or that editor. But I'm very glad I read that book because it was really good. I was so intrigued. Like, I was so hooked by the story. The writing is good. I really liked it. I think I rated it like 4 stars. It was a good one. Because I was in the mood for a thriller, I started Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. Love that one. Oh my god, that was such a good thriller. Everything I like in a thriller was in it. And yeah, this is a story of a mom that is waiting for her son. He is like 18 years old, and like at night she's waiting for him to come home. She looks at the window and she sees him coming back. She's like, oh, perfect, he's back. But then she sees another person with him, and her son is stabbing him. So her son killed someone. So of course the police is involved, is like taken away at the station, and she wakes up the next day and this is the same day. She's coming back in the past to try to understand and maybe stop the murder. So yeah, this is a very good book. I loved it. It was such a good time. And one of the plot twists just I didn't guess, I didn't expect. So I was like, okay. So yeah, I really liked it. This was the first time I read a book by her and loved it. 5 stars. Then the last book I read in March was After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love that author. This is the 4th book I read by her in like a few months. I'm obsessed. I want to read everything she wrote, her backlist. I'm so excited for her next release in June. I think now she's gonna become my favorite author or something like that. I don't know, but this is my kind of book. This one talks about marriage. It's a couple. They've been together for more than 10 years and the spark has faded. So they are trying something new by separating for a year without seeing each other, without talking to each other, and they're gonna try to find themselves back in order to maybe save their marriage. And I really liked how different it was how every character in the book has a different opinion on marriage, and none of them is wrong or right. It's just not everybody has the same experience, the same idea of a couple, of marriage. And I think it's very interesting and I really liked it. I think maybe this is the one I like less. I mean, I've read Caruso is Back, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and One True Loves. So I think this one is my least favorite of the four. I think I rated it like 4.25, something like that. I think it's just one aspect of their year apart that I didn't like. I thought I would be more emotional and I wasn't that much. So yeah, maybe that's the reason why, but I really love the family of Lauren. Yeah, I really like that aspect too. It was a good one, but not my favorite by her. Then I started the month of April with a thriller in French again, Les Refuges by Jérôme Loubry. This was such a good book. It was very psychological and you were in the mind of a girl that is very lost in her life. She didn't know her grandmother, but she dies and she gives her a house on an island. So she goes to that island that is weird and not many people live there, and she meets people there and everything's weird, and she learns that at the time there was a camp for kids in the after war, so the kids were traumatized, so they were going at the camp like it was like a summer camp for like 3 months to make them feel like kids again. And this place just, it closed. People don't know why. It was very psychological. It was, I've never read something like that. And it was very good. I loved it. It was a 5 stars. And then I read Deep End by Alieza Wood. How can I express myself? This is not my kind of romance. This is spicy, yes. I like a little bit of smut. No problem with that. But this is not the kind of smut that I really enjoy. This is like kinky kind of sex, and it was very respectful and very like both sides were okay with it. No problem with that. Even if it's not my type of smut, I shouldn't judge the people that like that kind of sex and go do what you want to do. So I'm not judging really. It just wasn't for me, I think. And also when there's a lot of spice in a book, sometimes I don't really feel their romance as much because this is very physical, and I don't really like when in romances it starts with only physical attraction and this is what's going on. So I don't know. I like them, but I wasn't that convinced by their romance. And also there is one side character that I didn't really like. She didn't feel realistic at all. She was having reactions that were not human. Like, and you know me, I like flawed characters. And at the end, at last, she has realistic behavior, but then she's immature. So yeah, she annoyed me a little. It wasn't for me, I think. It wasn't my favorite. I think it's a good book, and I really like Ali Hazelwood's writing, but I think this one wasn't for me. You have to sometimes accept that you don't like something, so you don't really enjoy the book, but it doesn't mean it's a bad book. So yeah, just not my favorite. I read it at like 2.75. Then I read something that has nothing to do with romance or thrillers. This is almost a true story of the author, and it's called Small Country by Gaël Faye. I read it in French. This is a story of, is genocide a word for you? In Rwanda and Burundi. This is a very hard story to read, but it is very necessary. We have to read that kind of book because awful things happened in our history, and this is not that old of a story. So this is very hard, but I love that book. It was a 6-star read for me. The author's writing was beautiful and simple. This is a short book that has a lot to say, so just loved it. And then the last book I've read in April was Sunrise on the Reaping by Susan Collins. So it's the last Hunger Games book. I was so excited to read that book because this is Haymitch's story and I love that character from the book one. He really intrigued me in these books and I was always wondering what he went through, and we have his story in here, so I really liked it. It was a very good book. I think it was necessary to have that story. It's not like, you know, sometimes the author wants to keep the fame in books, so he's writing again and again and again, but I think this story was needed and I really liked it. I think the one thing is there are many songs and poems in that book, and for me, French, it was a little bit hard sometimes to just understand what the song was saying and what was the link with the actual story. That was a bit like annoying at the end because it was a bit repetitive in terms of songs. And also, I didn't remember that in other books, but the before arena was long. I mean, like we have half of the book that is not taking place in the arena. I was reading and I was like, when are the Hunger Games actually starting? I was like, I didn't remember that in other books, but maybe it's just me. But it was a good one. I really loved Haymitch and the side characters, and I was tearing up sometimes. And this is a tragic story. And sometimes I like when it's tragic. And it explains so much about Haymitch and who he is in the future with Katniss and all of that. And also we have some references to Katniss' family, and I love that. I just think it was a good one. I really liked it. I rated it 4 stars. This is the wrap up for the last 2 months, and I'm very happy with all those reads, and some were very good, some were a little bit disappointing, but overall I think I'm happy and I've had more good than bad, so I'm very happy with that. I'm eager to see what the month of May is gonna bring me in terms of reading. And yeah, tell me if you've read any of those books and what you've thought about them. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!